Hi, everybody. Thank you so much for joining us today for our webinar series. Today's webinar is Boost Efficiency and Security through Room Booking Systems. We're glad that you've joined us. Please let us know where you're joining us from. I'm Kim Coffey. I'm with IFMA, and I'm joining you today from Houston, Texas. As we get started into our webinar, there are a couple of housekeeping issues to do. First of all, as I said, let us know where you're joining us from. Also, if you would, please like this issue that you're watching so that others can find it. And as we come in, this is an interactive webinar, so we're going to be sharing with you information about how to access Mentimeter, which is going to be interactive polling questions that will enable our panelists to really tailor their information to the folks depending on how you answer. Here we go. There's the slide. There's a QR code that you can scan. It will take you straight to where you need to be. You'll enter in code 690-30091, or you can simply go to your browser and type in www.menti.com and enter that code. It gives me great pleasure to introduce our moderator to you today. Luis, if you would mind joining me, please. Hi, Luis. I think you might need to start your camera. Well, this is giving us a little bit more time for everybody to be sure to click on that QR code and go into menti.com. We can go ahead and advance to the next slide. I will give Luis here a moment to join us. Hi, John. John,
Hey,
since
Kim.
Luis maybe
Mhm.
this is how you can tell it's live, right?
It's live. It's
Technology.
real.
It is real. We are all real people, and I know that we will have Luis join us here in just a moment. I'm really
Yeah.
excited about the topic of today's webinar because technology is influencing and impacting facilities in so many ways, and having that access control technology is really, really important. And I think that IDEA and IFMA have put together just an incredible panel of experts. And Luis, here you are.
Hey,
Something happened. It was only me.
It was only you, but you are here. So John and I were
My,
just talking a little
getting
bit
started.
about
Yeah.
exactly about this really great webinar that's coming up. Luis, as our moderator, I will turn things over to you and bid everybody adieu. Thank you.
I apologize. Give me 1 second because my system took me out as a security thing with my server. So I am verifying myself and I'm here. Thank you very much.
Whoops. So I guess this is one of the features of a good security system.
Hear me?
Yeah, we hear you.
Yeah. So I want to introduce
Great,
a
we're back.
fantastic panel of great professionals will help us to go through the topic today, enhancing campus safety and security with digital wallet and space solutions. So I will start with John Wan, the CEO of IDEA. John.
Hi,
Darlene
everyone.
Pope,
Yes.
President of North America Planning, and Oriol Turo, Global Business Development Manager for HD Global. So I will remind you that when we, in the next slide, you will see the QR, yeah, that we would like you to participate with us and answer the questions that we are going to ask. I think it's only 2 questions, but also please feel free to place your questions in the chat and we are going to attend those. Okay, thank you. Thank you for joining today. And let's jump to our first topic. The first question for the panel is how can educational institutions improve their management of rooms and desk bookings on campuses through the use of technology? John, I think this question, I would like you to start with it and tell us how can those universities, colleges, or any other educational institution can do this.
Thank you very much, Luis. I would like to start a little bit uh, on my background in relation to in relevance to the topic that we're talking about today. So I am a CEO of IDEA. I started a company about 20 years ago, and we have been very focused on delivering digital signage solutions, helping enterprises digitally transform their operations. So we first started with the retail business. So as retail stores were putting in screens to promote their sales activities, digital technologies also gets introduced to our lives. And one area in particular that's relevant to what we're talking about today, that we see a lot of adoption of digital technology is the campus, especially higher education campus. They were actually one of the earliest adopters, as I remember, of room scheduling systems. So back in the old days, of course, you need to have systems to track the assignment of rooms with respect to the schedule of the classes. Also, with respect to the lectures that are scheduled for each week. And when there are student activities, you will need a system to manage all that. And very soon, we see um, universities and campuses started introducing screens into hallways inside of buildings to help people track of dynamically which rooms are scheduled for which classes for which events, and also allow them to find freely available rooms. So this is when we started first seeing technology being introduced and integrated with classroom scheduling. And I think with these kind of introduction of these technologies, schools quickly gain efficiency from the spaces that they have. Because you can imagine schools typically have a very large group of users of their spaces, and they have a lot of unassigned spaces that should be utilized to the maximal efficiency. So naturally, I think this kind of technology goes in very well. And what we're seeing that's exciting for us, and which is the topic that we're going to talk about today, is that lately the scheduling systems are tied with further with personal mobile technologies. Uh, for example, digital wallets, allowing the students and the faculty to easily book a space and also gain access to the spaces securely using a device that they carry in their pocket every day. And this does not only bring convenience, it also allows the schools to further tying automation systems to make the buildings even more efficient. For example, we're seeing integration of energy control systems with room schedules. So moments before a room is about to start its scheduled activity, air conditioning and lighting will go on. And after the event is finished, these energy systems will be shut off to save energy and reduce carbon footprint for buildings. And one also very popular application is that this digital signage platform allows people to quickly, interactively report any failure of systems. For example, you have a projector with a broken light bulb. It's very simple to go to one of these screens and press a button to report. So making facility maintenance very efficient and very streamlined. So I think I'm just give a few minutes of a quick overview of kinds of applications that we're seeing in the field and how higher education university facilities are using technology to help them become more efficient.
Thank you, John, and thank you for joining late. I know it's late in Asia. So, Darlene, please, have a chance to introduce yourself because of that click at the beginning, I didn't give you a chance on what is relevant for the topic. What do you think? How can educational institutions improve their management of room and desk using technology?
Sure. Thanks, Louise. So I'm Darlene Pope. I'm the president of Plan On for North America. Plan-On is an integrated workplace management solution. We do provide a very robust space management software. So the reason that that's so important right now, I think whether you're a higher education, college, university, or an enterprise customer, space management is absolutely critical in terms of creating a safe and efficient workplace or safe and efficient facilities. And recognize that, a college campus is as much of a workplace as an office building, whether it's faculty, staff, students. So recognize that there's a lot of different spaces in a campus that need to be managed and that need to be managed effectively. And that's not only from a safety and security standpoint, but also just from a space management perspective. So every square foot of space on a college campus or even in an office building is of value. And even now with remote work, we're even seeing that within the college and university environment, that there's a lot of flexible work and hybrid work, and they need to manage their workplace in the same way that we would in an office. So looking at space management, understanding use of space is critical on a higher education campus. So if you look at, what we would call a smart campus, and a smart campus is a campus that's digital, that's high tech, and that supports all of those, whether it's student experience, whether it's space utilization, obviously safety and security through the use of digital wallet, credentials, authorization for people coming in and out of buildings. But really also looking at the environment of higher education itself as a high-tech community. I mean, it should be digital and it should be mobile. You look at every single student on that campus. The campus is a 100% mobile customer end user base, if you will. So when you look at the use of technology within the campus, it's critical. It's critical, and the students depend on it. Every visitor depends on it. So really taking a look at space management and why that's important. If you could go to the next slide, though, let's take a look at some of the other benefits of digitization and smart campuses. Whether it's engagement, whether it's the experience, whether it's a reflection of the culture and image of the university. Whether it's reducing operating expenses, and John mentioned taking data and really using that data to run the facilities more efficiently. When you look at space management, one of the biggest data sets that we can gain from a robust space management platform is real-time occupancy, real-time utilization of space. I have two boys, two sons that are in college currently, and I can't tell you how many times we toured a college campus and we walked through buildings that were completely vacant, that were freezing cold and had lights on throughout the entire facility. And being in the business that I'm in, it drove me crazy because they were not taking advantage of real-time occupancy information to run those campuses efficiently. And so that's just one area where space management and real-time utilization comes in. But then when you look at safety and security, which is, a big topic for us to discuss today, understanding where your people are, where your students and your faculty and staff are in the event of an emergency is absolutely critical. And again, touring college campuses, I remember during one of the tours, the security officer told us that if there's an emergency, and if your student happens to be on campus, at night and has an emergency, they should look for a blue light,
That's right.
And a pole, and they should run to that blue light and pick up a phone and call security. And I'm like, no, they shouldn't. They should pick up their mobile device, and you should have look at. Anyway, I digress. But the point of that is that we do live, especially our students live in a very mobile type of environment. And so for the purpose of safety and security and efficiency, it's absolutely critical to be able to have technology to provide real-time information and real-time data. So then if you look at a situation where you may have, God forbid, an active shooter or some type of other emergency on campus, to be able to provide our students with a safe environment, the use of technology, mobile apps, mobile communication, space management, to know where your people are in the event of an emergency, to know how many students happen to be in this particular classroom right now, how many students are locked down in the dorms right now and are safe, how many students are in the cafeteria, to really take a look at space management from more than just a space management standpoint. So if you go to the next slide, and then I'll wrap up my answer to this question. Looking at general market trends and whether it's a campus or a workplace, space management right now is number one. Everyone needs to understand how my space is being utilized. And a lot of that is driven because of back to work and back to campus, and what percentage of the workers are coming back and working on site versus working from home, and really understanding how to use the space better. From a sustainability standpoint, to be able to take that data and use it to run the buildings more efficiently is critical, because again, it doesn't make sense to be running buildings 24/7 if there's nobody in them. So that leads to cost reduction. And then we take a look at mobile, and I know we'll talk about it a little bit more in the second question today, but we live in a very, very digital, mobile type of environment right now. And so everything has to be looked at from a mobile standpoint. My older son, when he checked into college, they gave him a physical metal key to use for his dorm room. And again, I was probably the worst mom during these tours, but I said to him, the first thing that's going to happen when you wake up in the morning, you go to take a shower to get ready for class, you're going to lock yourself out of your room. And he's like, no, I'm not. And sure enough, yes, he did. But they had no digital credentials. They had literally physical metal keys. And part of the discussion today is around not just efficiency and cost reduction, but safety and security and authorization, and really making sure that you have the right digital credentials and that the right people are accessing the right spaces. And so when you take a look at integrating visitor management and access control, integrating space management and room booking, integrating your panels, really looking at how technology can support all of this, it is absolutely critical. And quite frankly, you can't do it without robust technology, because there's too much data and too much information to attempt to manage manually. So those are kind of just my introductory thoughts in terms of really the importance of integrated digital technologies to support space management and safety and security within a campus environment. So thanks, Luis.
Thank you, Darlene. Thank you. Great supporting slides. Let me say we have people here from the US, some people in Indiana, I heard, Jamaica, Bangalore, Egypt, Swazilandia. It's a good interest in the audience, and we look forward for your questions. The QR is there in the corner for you to place questions, and also to answer ours. Before I introduce our last speaker, our last panelist today for this question, Oriol Turro, please take your time and also introduce yourself.
Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are in the world. My name is Oriol Turro. I'm originally from Spain, but I'm based in US. I've been 16 years in HAD Global. HAD Global is a well-known company in US for access control systems, but I belong to a different group called Extended Access Technologies that we essentially develop solutions that are compatible with HAD technology. Then in Extended Access, essentially we equip partners like eIDEA with our technology to make sure that they can interact with HAD credentials and other credentials and take benefit of this technology. Ultimately, and maybe a little bit of abstraction in this discussion, the real challenge for most of these kind of systems like room booking or similar systems, printing, elevators, even access control, right, is how do you identify a human, right? How do you know that human is authorized to do something? And humans in general, we can be identified in three ways. Something you have, that it can be a card, it can be a phone, it can be a wearable. Who you are, it's about biometrics, and something you know, right? It's PIN and passwords. All of us, we use PIN and passwords all day long, right? And what is true is that when you think about it a little bit more careful, people, they are not that pro-biometric. We don't like this idea of sharing our bio data with third parties. And in general, PIN and password, we tend to forget them. indeed, it's pretty common that people have problems storing in their mind pins and passwords, so many email addresses, so many different places where we have to register, right? And it's a challenge. Indeed, organizations, they spend a ton of money and time trying to recover passwords. Then the easiest at the end, it's something you have. And what you can have, obviously, it's something that it's all day long with you, right? Then all of us, we are used to have a wallet full of plastic cards, things like that, right? Let's see, my personal badge, that's my employee badge, right? Then every single of us, if we work in a corporation, we have one of those, right? But it happens the same with students. Students, all of them, they have their student ID, right? This is I would say it's the traditional approach, but it has still some limitations. You have to carry around, and as Darlene mentioned, it's easy to forget, like it happens with mechanic keys. Indeed, it's proven that around 15 to 20% of the students, they lose once a year their badge. That means, imagine how many man hours, how many resources are invested just to make sure that everybody has the right credential, right? The other way, it could be that you store a credential into a phone, right? All of us, we have a mobile phone, right? I mean, it's next to us. We go everywhere with our phone, right? But if you check these students, it's clear that it's the center of their universe. It's know-how, it's entertainment, it's communication with friends, it's everything. It's their bank, it's their way of transport, it's their way of doing everything every single day. If one of the students loses their phone, it's the end of the world for them, right? Then obviously it creates this concept that they have to keep it with them all time. And the reality is the most natural approach is that the physical credentials, they end up digitalized. I used to say that everyone, and some people think that I'm exaggerating, but what we understand as a wallet, it's going to disappear. It's a matter of time. We can discuss how quick it's going to happen, right? But what it's a physical wallet full of plastic cards that they have multiple identifiers, wherever Visa, MasterCard, your transport, your driving license, your passport, wherever it is, eventually it's going to be digitalized in your phone. There is a ton of different companies that are working in this direction. And it's a matter of time that all of this is digitalized. In some countries, we already have Apple Pay, Google Pay. In some countries, you can have your pass for the transportation directly in your phone. Now we have it as well for access. And obviously in HID, we had HID Mobile for many years. Now we have something that is the next level, is that we can store the credentials into the wallet. It's what we call the HID Mobile in Apple Wallet. And in this case, it's for student ID. We do it for corporate space as well. And we are doing as well for Google Wallet. Then eventually, what it's going to happen is that the physical wallet, it's going to be digitalized, and it's going to end up into the digital wallet. Then the thing is, the moment you got a credential, that's the first step. How do you interact with the multiple systems in a building? And here I think that Lynn mentioned a very specific word that I think it's the key concept. It's a smart campus or a smart building, right? At the end, those facilities, they are massive. They offer a ton of different services. Obviously, there is room management, but there is other things, right? It could be the elevator, it could be the garage, it could be printing, it could be access, right? This is what we call in HID the ecosystem, because it's a bunch of different solutions where the students, in the case of campuses, or it can be the employees in the case of organizations like corporations, for example, they interact with different systems. And the challenge is, how do you identify each of those individuals in each of those systems, and you make sure that they make a good use? And obviously, we come back to the concept. How do you identify them? Biometric, as we mentioned, it's not the most convenient. Something, or PIN password, it has some limitations, right? Then the easiest is either you got plastic, or either you got something like a mobile phone, or you can even go to the next level where this is still starting, but it's about using wearables. It could be a smartwatch, like an Apple Watch, or even there are some companies developing smart rings or smart bracelets or smart whatever, wearables, right? Something you're carrying with you all day long. Then ultimately, the moment you have the right container with the right credential, you can go to in this case, the room management system, and you can book a room. And I can tell you, I did an MBA a few years ago, and we were fighting for those rooms. And it's fantastic because you can go to the panel, you can identify yourself, you can see the available slots, and you can say, okay, that slot is for me. Then you book your room, right? Obviously, you can do it from the phone, from the app, but you can do it on site directly on the panel. And this opens obviously different situation because it's a good utilization of the systems. And you are you, right? Because you're properly identified in the system. When you think about it, it makes absolute sense. I believe all of us we agree, but we end up with the situation that Darlene explained, that it's the reality. You enter into a building, it's completely empty. Aircon is full on, it's freezing temperature, all lights on, and it's like that's completely inefficient, right? It does not make any sense. Then obviously, with a good use of the technology, we can evolve those systems to make sure that they are convenient, they are secure, and the people make a good use of it. And for me, there is one key thing that we tend to forget, that is ultimately the resources are not infinite. If we optimize the available resources, at the end, it's like having more resources, right? I mean, an empty room, it's a resource that is completely useless. We need people to be there. We need people that they are studying. In the case of students, they have to be there. They have to have discussions. They have to be studying. They have to be doing something. If this room is not used, it's like not having it. It's not having this resource, right? Then smart buildings, smart campuses, it's the next level. And obviously, as you mentioned, this scenario occurs mainly in higher ed, but it occurs as well in the corporate space. I mean, same needs, same situation. It's all about smart buildings.
Well, thank you, Oriol. Let me tell you that what you three have been speaking during this first question is we've been using as a facility managers in the corporate world, okay? And it's a little bit ahead. And the reason of this webinar, I think universities, colleges, educational institutions are a little bit lagging on that. And you had a stat I was writing, but some people have said, oh, close to 17-20% lose the batch the first year. Yes, I guess that goes higher in the if you go to a student. Okay, you give it, yeah. So
I could not be surprised.
that's great. So I think one of the things I want to remark is that it's not only a space management, it's not only efficiency, which we do and we do in the corporate world, but is at another level is the safety and security of your students in your campuses. So Oriol, I think we have a question right now. Yes.
Yep.
So we are going to do our first question interactive. So we are going to give you time again to scan your QR and let's answer online and see what you think. Which technology have you tried or are interested in evaluating for managing space on a college's campus or any other campuses? I'm doing it myself. Okay. So we are kind of a tie situation. Oh, page just shown. Okay. 33 each of them. So mobile applications to book. That's obviously, I mean, great. Oh, more coming in. Okay. Wow. There you go. The two winners are the smart space reservation system with more coming in. But still, we have kind of a tie between sensor-based system, yeah, and smart space reservation system. So I think we're done with this. I guess no more results. So that is a great segue to our second questions because, in fact, that's exactly what you're asking. So, and the question is about the key benefits of introducing digital wallets and access control technologies in educational institutions, and how can they improve campus security again and efficiency. So those that of you that have answer mobile applications to book and check availability, and also allow you to move around the campus. I think this second part of the webinar would be very interesting. So if we can go to the next slide, please. I think we finished with the, yeah. Yeah. Oriol, I just want you to start because you kind of left it there when we were talking on the first topic. What do you think are the key benefits of introducing these digital wallets, these wearables and more efficient and smart ways to access and control yourself inside and space?
Yeah, there are three topics here that I want to touch. One is about convenience, one is about security, and then there is discussion around the credential issuance and life cycle. Then let's start with convenience. All of us, when we leave home, we take a bunch of things, right? Typically the keys of our car, the keys of home, or phone, maybe our laptop, etc., etc., etc. But it's true that the most important device and the one that forces us to go back home, yes or yes, is our mobile phone. We never ever leave our home with our phone, right? That's critical. And the reality is that's the device we have most of the time in our hands, right? I mean, we are walking on the street with the phone, we are sitting somewhere with the phone, right? Why not using the phone to approach either to a door or to a management system or directly to, I don't know, to an elevator and then get access to that system, right? It's much more convenient than just using a plastic card. And I know a lot of people, they say, yeah, a plastic card, it's hanging from your neck or from wherever, from your belt. You can always touch it and present it, right? But the reality is a phone, it's much more accessible. It's there, right? Then the other thing is the moment you have a phone or even a wearable, I forgot the wearable, you can use as well your watch to interact with different systems. And I'm not sure if you're familiar. I know there is people from all over the world, but those that you are in US or in Europe or in some countries in Asia, there is already Apple Pay, right? If you had already the experience with Apple Pay, the concept is pretty much the same, right? You got your credentials in the wallet and you approach the phone, and via NFC, there is a mutual communication between the phone and the reader. And essentially, if this mutual authentication works fine and all the security mechanisms behind they work, it's going to be able to extract the ID that identifies that user in a unique manner. For example, it could be John, it's user 1234, right? Then if the reader extracts 1234, the system on the back end can know, okay, John is in front of this office management system or room management system, or it could be in the elevator. Then you can get access to that system and use it, right? If John tries, maybe let's imagine he has a completely different credential, or if he tries to take advantage of the system somehow, the system is going to say, okay, you are not John, you are not authorized, right? Then one of the interesting things when we talk about wallets in the phone is security. And here it's something that a lot of people, it's very aseptic, because as you can imagine, like it happens with a PC, there's a lot of attacks and there is always discussions if it's secure, it's not secure. What it's true is that all the digital credentials in a wallet, the wallet by itself, it's stored into what is called the secure element. The secure element is a chip that in every single phone essentially contains the critical information that should never be cloned. It could not be duplicated or extracted without authorization. There is no other place in a phone that is more secure than the secure element. Then all the credentials are stored in the best place. But then the communication, when it happens between the phone and the reader, it happens with NFC. It's encrypted communication. That means even if somebody could try to sniff the communication, it's not going to work because it's encrypted data. But even if you could extract the data by itself, it's encrypted as well. Then whenever there is a transaction, there is multiple layers of security to prevent that somebody can access the data or even try to replicate or do a reply attack or other type of attacks. The other thing is, obviously, once the data is extracted, it's passed to the backend. The backend decides if you got access or not. As you can see, there is multiple layers or filters, if you prefer, prior that the transaction can be successfully executed, and you can take advantage or you can use the system. The other thing is about there are other technologies. Some people say, why not using QR codes, right? They are convenient as well, and you can have it on the screen. But the QR codes, for example, they can be easily cloned. You can take a picture from a QR code, right? Or, for example, use a PIN and pass. As we mentioned, it's convenient, but then it's easy to forget. It's easy to be stolen. It's not rare people doing a post-it with a PIN or with a password. Just make sure they don't forget, right? Then yes, it works, but obviously it's not at the same level. The The other topic that I want to touch today is about issuance. And this is something that obviously for the user, it's not that obvious because yes, I mean, uh, today, if you're a student of a campus, first day or a few weeks before the first day, you receive a letter, right, with your badge saying, okay, you're a student of University XYZ, right? Great. But this process that looks very simple for the user, the reality is that it's a nightmare for the institution. Imagine any of those campuses. They got tens of thousands of students. Every year they receive thousands or tens of thousands of new students. That means they have to create thousands of letters with thousands of cards that they are uniquely personalized per student, right? And all of those, they have to be sent to each student individually. That means you can imagine the logistics behind, they are brutal. And on top, it's easy to make mistakes, right? It might be that you did not spell the name correctly, or maybe the picture is incorrect, or maybe you are shipping to the wrong address, this kind of stuff, right? Then what is true is that some organizations, what they do is they bring the students to the campus and they spend one day, long queue, long discussions just to get their badge. They spend the whole morning just to get a badge, right? Completely inefficient, but that's reality. That's the real world today. Then the moment you go into the digital world, it's pretty simple. You authenticate into the app or into the webpage of the university, and then you receive automatically the credential into your wallet, in your phone. You can do it from home, anywhere in the world. You just need an internet connection, no human interaction. It's fully automated. Then it's very easy. It's very convenient. Then those institutions, instead of spending 2 months creating cards for students, they can just automatize just using one single server, issuing all the credentials to the students. Yes, it may be that there are still names that are not spelled properly or the picture is wrong, but it's a minor part, right? Then you can only deal with those instead of dealing with the whole workload that you have to do to generate all those credentials. And this is something that as a user, you never think, right? But obviously those campuses, they think about this a lot because they spend several months working just issuing those credentials. Then,
let me tell you, Oriol, 1 second
ahead.
there. There is one of our attendees that say that you are right, Oriol, because I never leave home without phone. That also applies to me, and I think for everyone. And if I do, I go back and to get it. And that could be, more even applicable to students. They cannot live without that. So that's exactly what it is. The sentiment of some people in the audience.
Yeah, you're completely correct. And indeed, as you know, when we talk about security, it's about technology, it's about technicism, technical data, right? But the reality is that the behavior of the people, it's affecting as well the security. Because, and I give you an example. If you lose your phone, how long it's going to take for you to realize? Is it minutes? It's seconds? Maybe 1 hour max, right? But if you lose your badge, how long it's going to take for you to detect it? It might take days. In my case, I can tell you, I go to the office time to time, but it might be that I don't go to the office for several weeks. Then it might be that I lost my badge in one of my trips and it's gone and I don't even know. And I don't even report to the organization. That's a security issue because potentially somebody could take that card and they could go to the building and try to get access, right? They have a valid badge. But in my phone, I'm going to detect immediately. I know the first second that it's going to happen, right? The other thing is, in the moment you have credentials in the wallet, it can be configured in different ways. One of the things is it's possible to do what is called express transactions, where you can show the phone directly with a black screen. You present it to the reader and do a transaction. That's the lowest level of security, maximum level of convenience, right? But you can increase the level of convenience, the security, and reduce a little bit the convenience, saying, okay, the transaction is not going to happen unless there is a prior biometric transaction. In the case of Apple, it can be Face ID, or it can be Finger ID, or it can be a passcode because they still allow that. The same with Android devices. You can use whatever biometric mechanism as an extra layer on top prior to perform a transaction. Then when you present the phone, nothing happens, but it asks you to authenticate. You authenticate and then the transaction occurs. It's exactly the same mechanism as Apple Pay or Google Pay and all these kind of applications. But the idea is you add extra layers of security. Obviously, it's a little bit less convenient, but it's a little bit more secure. Then if you want to make sure that nobody can use your credential on the phone, you can force that as well. And before somebody asks, you can force it at reader level, you can force it at font level. Then if you are somebody that is really concerned about security, you can increase the security requirements per transaction in the font. But if it's an institution that is concerned about the security, you can do it at the reader level as well.
Thank you, Oriol. Let me say that if I can interject you there. So this is my life. Okay? just for you to see, because I work for different clients. So, and this is only my clients, not mine, my offices. So I would appreciate that. And definitely, Darlene mentioned that at the beginning, and I know personally it is important for her as a mom. She has two boys in college. I have one. So obviously, for all of us, security and safety is one of the top priorities. So I want to pass the question to Darlene on that regard. So Darlene, what do you think about the key benefits of using these technologies in campus?
Absolutely. So, as we live in a mobile first world, right? This is my primary means of communication. It's, I use it pretty much for everything. And when you're looking at digital and mobile and access control, think about all the uses that we have for that already, right? We book a seat on an airplane. We make our reservation through our mobile device. When we get to the airport, we use that mobile device for access control, right? So it gives us our boarding pass to get through security. It gives us a boarding pass to get onto the plane. So we're already using it for booking a seat and using it for access control. You book a seat at a movie theater now. You can pick where you want to sit. And when you get there, you use your credential, your mobile credential as your ticket that's your access control to get into the movie theater. The same thing for sporting events. You book a seat at a sporting event. You pick where you want to sit. They use it for space management, push you, digital credentials to get into that sporting event. So this is nothing new. Same thing with a hotel. You book a room in a hotel and you get a digital key. And when you get to your hotel room, you use your app to open the door. So we're not talking about anything new. We're talking about taking the technology that we live with every single day and applying it in a campus environment. And the benefits that adds, not only from a space management standpoint, because now you understand how space is being used, but most importantly, from a safety and security standpoint, that only authorized people are allowed on campus and have access to the facilities based on their credentials. And so whether that's access to, the cafeteria, access to the library, access to your dorm, access to classrooms, only people that have the correct credentials should be allowed to do that. But there's a couple of pictures I wanted to show. So first of all, as we know, we all live in our mobile apps. I think this is so much more true of the younger generation. They don't even, I think, out of all the features on their smartphone, the feature they use the least is the phone. So they use their mobile devices for all types of communication and texting and everything. But most importantly, if you go to the next slide, what you're going to see is this, first of all, everything's integrated. The data from one app is shared with the data from another app. But the most important feature that we're seeing now with digital mobile technology is location-based services. And location-based services are used by everyone every single day. If you've ever used a GPS, the GPS needs to know where you are in order to provide that blue dot for you to move along the road. So even looking at a GPS is taking occupancy information and feeding it to a digital floor plan, if you will, to show you where you are in that digital floor plan or that digital map, and also showing you where other people are in that digital floor plan or that digital map. So when you use a GPS and you see traffic up ahead, it's basically collecting terabytes of data and information on occupancy on the roadway and showing it to you in a manner that adds value to you, not only for where you are, but for where everybody else is. So how does that apply in a campus environment? Location-based services, first of all, from a safety and security standpoint, can identify where students are on campus. And again, from a privacy perspective, this can be enabled based on user permission, so that the user can say, I will enable you to identify my location. Now, For those of you who have kids, and when those kids were growing up and you had Life 360 and you could track your kids and you know exactly where those kids were at any given amount of time, tremendous amount of value added to the parents to be able to identify where their children are. Maybe not so much value on the student side, or on the child side when their parents know where they are, but certainly from a safety and security standpoint, I want to know where my kids are. Now that they're in college, it's a little bit different because they use location-based services to add value to them. They want their friends to know where they are. So the picture that is shown there, all the way on the right, that is actually a screenshot from my son's phone. That was the Saturday of Senior Beach Week, where thousands of high school seniors from Northern Virginia travel down I-95 to go to Myrtle Beach for Senior Beach Week, right? The reason I'm including that slide is to demonstrate how our children and how students use mobile apps and location-based services pretty much every second of every day. When I took my son down to Myrtle Beach for Senior Beach Week, I happened to ask him, when are your friends going to be arriving, blah, blah, blah. He didn't call anyone. He didn't text anyone. He picked up his app and he showed me, this is where everyone is right now. So that is literally a screenshot of all of his friends en route to Myrtle Beach from Northern Virginia. I can see Andrew. I can see Jamie. He knows he didn't have to call anybody. The reason I'm showing this is that location-based services in a campus environment is critical to safety and security of those students. Where are they? Where should they be? And it's not a matter of tracking. It's a matter of adding value to the end user and adding value from a safety and security standpoint. I use the analogy all the time. Can you imagine ordering an Uber and the Uber doesn't know where you are? Right? So we use location-based services. We want to give up our location if that provides value to us as the end user. And to our students, to our children, or I shouldn't call them children anymore, but to students, they voluntarily give up their location because it adds value to them because their friends know where they are. Well, if you can then apply that for space management, every single one of us is walking around with an occupancy sensor in our pocket, right? So being able to detect how many people are in this room, how long is the line in the cafeteria right now? Is there a treadmill available in the gym if I want to go work out in the gym right now? Again, in the event of an emergency on campus, where are all the people? Are they safe? Are all the students safe in the auditorium? Are they safe in their dorm rooms? Is everyone locked down? Where can we identify someone on campus who might not be an authorized visitor? Then go back to the integration with various different solutions. So tying in integrated visitor management with your access control devices. So if there's a visitor coming to campus, they need to be properly registered. Then they can also take advantage of a mobile app and a credential device to make sure that any visitors coming onto campus are authorized visitors, so that you don't have, people coming through the campus that are not authorized to be there. So there are so many different applications that we can talk about for the value of technology, location-based services, fully integrated data, space management, access control. I mean, we could talk about this topic for days, but I did just want to point out that from a safety and security standpoint, having integrated systems, integrated data, and tying all that to a mobile device is absolutely critical, especially in a campus environment. So
thank you, Darlene. You are entitled, by the way, to call it children because you have two students that are your children. I don't know the others, but you can. And I can too. I want to pass the word to John, and I know, John, you will talk about the privacy and all of that. And it remind me this joke about Siri. Do you know where I am? I said, no, it's private. Do you know where I am? It's sure. No. I said, tell me where is the closest McDonald's. I says, walk 2 blocks and to the right. So we are 100% totally identified, located now, GPS and things like that. And it's impressive the picture of all the children going down to the beach. So John, what do you think? What are the key benefits of introducing these digital wallet wearables in order to and access control technologies in campuses.
Yeah, thank you, Luis. And if you could bring up the next slide. Yeah, I think today we heard a lot of great benefits of integrating digital wallets into access control for campus, integrated with space management. And I think in the audience, you might be wondering, how do you get this started? How do you acquire the technology? And it's actually quite simple. So we're very fortunate to work with Darlene's company, Plan On, to have their software integrated. So she was talking about integrated visitor management functionality. And also, we're very fortunate to work with HID to really have the first room scheduling panel that's certified by Apple that works with Apple wallets. So I think it's the technology is ready. If you want to bring this technology to your campus, as easy as getting a starter kit. And with that, you'll be able to allow students to use the digital credentials inside their wallets to identify themselves as they check into the spaces that they have reserved. And this is more than just gaining access into spaces. Darty also mentioned for me, I'm not a student anymore, but I travel quite a bit. And one of I think what I consider as one of the best innovation in the hospitality sector in recent years, I think, is the digital the room card. So you have the convenience of being able to check in even before you arrive at a hotel. You can do an early check-in and you get your virtual room card on your app immediately. So you could just skip the check-in process and go directly to your room with a tap on the door. You're in. And we can literally bring that technology to campus to improve student experiences and faculty as well. And as Ori also said, this also works with enterprise customers. I think Darlene also mentioned that. So I think this is a technology that's becoming mature and ready to be deployed. And in addition to helping users to get into the spaces, we also see, since you have the identification card inside the wallets, it's it's basically, it can be integrated with payment. So it's the same experience if you want to check into the room as if you want to pay for something at checkout. It's just a simple touch of the phone, and perhaps with a additional finger print to make sure that it is you using the wallet. Also, in terms of privacy, I understand that Darlene was showing the map with all the faces, but I think it's a choice that you can opt into to have that convenience. But on the flip side, if you choose to be anonymous, and I think digital credentials is the one of the most secure ways to gain you access to prove that you are the person without disclosing unnecessary information. So imagine if you lose a hotel room card on a taxi, people know what hotel you're staying at. They know your room number actually, and that wouldn't happen with a digital card. And so Darlene brought out several times, with all this digitization of the campus environment, also the ability to track individuals, on campus. We do have extra control on security. This also applies to departments that are planning to allow users, students from different for other departments to book a space on their own premise for you, so people can actually share spaces cross departments, cross buildings, and digital credentials would allow all that. So just a quick summary. I think we have a exciting technology that's proven out there in some of the industries, and just ready to really bring all that convenience and all that elevated experience to the campus. And I hope we have more time to talk about it. But I think at the next IFMA event, I think we're going to have a session to talk more about this.
Definitely,
And
John. Thank you
please
for that
do
summary.
join us if you're going to be there.
Yeah, if we have a look at this slide for the last time until we pass to the next poll questions that we want to ask the
Right.
audience, very easy to answer, please scan your code and answer to which physical access control technology have you deployed or are interested in evaluating for managing campus security. Remember that all our experts here and panelists work in this area, and they can provide more insight about all of the technologies that we have been speaking today. Okay, visitor management system, obviously. QR, yeah. Well, I think QR was revitalized after COVID or during COVID, and then it was a great tool. So it's not strange to see it there. PIN and password, obviously. What others? Waiting for the answers. There you go. Oh, credential mobile application, and it's good to see. Your logs, visitor management system. So PIN and password. So I think what John just mentioned 1 second before about the integration, the benefit of the integration. So none of those technologies are against each other. It's the integration that what makes sense, and simplify that through a mobile solution. That would be the phone or the watch or whatever you have handy. I think that's one of the key elements. The other one John mentioned is the safety, the privacy of your data. That you need to be aware of that, and use sources and companies that can. Okay, I see there is a delay from LinkedIn with the answer, so sorry about that, but I'm still waiting for some answers. As we finish this webinar today, I want first to thank you, our audience, the people that have been participating with us from different places in the world. I said I was surprised to see Swazilandia. I don't know if you have, but I worked in Swazilandia once in my life, so it was good to see a fellow facility manager from there. I want to thank the panelists, John, Darlene, and Oriol. Thank you very much for your insight. Fantastic, panel today. As I said, my second time doing this with IFMA, and on my third, but this was really interesting, and I have some takeaways about deploying technologies mentioned. I included digital booking system, mobile application, smart space, reservation system. And finally, I want to say, if you're interested in this topic and you're thinking about this, there will be an exclusive in-person roundtable during the IFMA World Workplace in Denver at the end of September. If you are participating there, please register. Probably you will see all the people that you saw today on the screen, myself included. And also, if you want the presentation, some of the slides, especially the one that Darlene put on his son going down to the beach, please scan the QR that we will put now there, and you can download the presentation. I think I want to thank IFMA for the hosting us, and for doing this every month. It is a fantastic initiative to increase the value of IFMA for our members and overall facility management community. And I encourage you attendees to stay tuned and participate in the next series of webinars that we are going to be launching. So thank you very much. And with no further ado, I want to, say goodbye from California.
Great. Thank you, Luis.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.